Today, I will tell you a new exciting story.
This is a story that's both unsettling and intricate, taking nearly a decade to uncover justice. It's about a 21-year-old nun whose horrific murder in 1992 was finally solved after 28 years in December 2020. This is the story of Sister Abhaya. The story begins in the tranquil town of Kottayam, Kerala, back in 1992. Much like other Christian communities in Kerala, Kottayam was a peaceful area with churches and convents scattered across the town. These religious places played a central role in the lives of its residents. One of the most recognized convents in the area was St. Paschal X Convent, which included a hostel where young women came to study and reside, many of whom were nuns. Among these women was 21-year-old Sister Abhaya, a devoted young nun who had joined the convent to dedicate her life to serving God and helping others. Sister Abhaya was studying at a pre-degree college, preparing for her upcoming exams. Determined to perform well, she decided to wake up early one morning to study. She set her alarm, went to bed, and woke up around 4 a.m. After exchanging greetings with a few of her fellow nuns, she sat down to begin her studies. A little while later, she felt the need to take a brief break. She left her books and went to the kitchen, probably to drink some water or splash her face with cold water to stay awake. The following morning, when the other nuns woke up, they noticed something odd. Sister Abhaya was nowhere to be found. This struck them as unusual. When they went to the kitchen, they discovered an open water bottle. Water spilled across the floor, and one of Sister Abhaya's slippers left behind. But where was Sister Abhaya? No one had any answers. The search quickly intensified, and soon they discovered her other slipper near the convent's well. When one of the nuns approached the well and looked inside, she was horrified to see Sister Abhaya's lifeless body. The fire department was called, the police arrived, and eventually her body was pulled from the well. The nuns and hostel residents were in total shock. Just the night before, they had shared a meal, laughed together, made plans for the future, and even been irritated by her early morning alarm. Now, that same friend was being removed from the well, dead. Local police officer V. Augustine arrived as part of the usual protocol after the body was recovered. He wrote up a report, called for photographs to be taken of the scene and the body, and sent the body for an autopsy. During the autopsy, the doctors found cuts, bruises, and a head injury, but concluded that the cause of death was drowning, despite the head injury. Nevertheless, the death was labeled a suicide, with the possibility of foul play. At the time, many people found this explanation hard to accept. Why would Sister Abhaya wake up and set an alarm just to take her own life? The fridge was left open, the bottle's cap was off, water had spilled, and her slipper was found on the floor. Everything seemed rushed. The story didn't add up. Hundreds of girls came to the convent to study, learn about their faith, and live. A tragedy like this happening in such a place was highly unusual. This event, along with the suspicions of a cover-up, shook the entire community. An activist, Joan Poen Paraclet, took action and formed a committee to seek justice. On April 16th, the case was handed over to the crime branch for further investigation. After several months of work, the crime branch released its findings. The case was removed from the hands of the local police and placed under the crime branch's jurisdiction, where a thorough investigation took place. Ultimately, they concluded that Sister Abhaya's death was a suicide. By this time, Sister Abhaya had already been buried, and her clothes were destroyed, leaving minimal physical evidence behind. However, the case became a major topic of debate in Kerala. The media was full of stories, and people across the state started developing their own theories about what had truly happened. The nuns were dissatisfied with the way the case was progressing. Pressure from the media, activists, and society at large mounted. Unsurprisingly, the case was transferred to a higher authority. The Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, took over the investigation, starting a fresh probe. The CBI began with a new approach, seeking new clues and revisiting old witnesses. At first, it seemed like things were moving along, but then a shocking and bizarre event occurred. In 1994, CBI officer Vargas P. Thomas held a press conference and revealed something unexpected. He claimed that he had faced pressure to label the case a suicide, which led him to resign from his position almost 9 years before his planned retirement. The fallout from his statement was huge, sparking chaos. The case was back in the news, and people couldn't understand why it had become so complicated. Where was the pressure coming from? Why was solving the case proving so difficult? The CBI team continued their investigation for several more months, even though they lacked sufficient medical evidence. They conducted a series of dummy tests, creating a doll the same size and weight as Sister Abhaya, and throwing it into the well in different ways. They closely observed where the doll was injured and compared those injuries to the ones found on Sister Abhaya's body. However, these tests yielded no definitive answers. In 1996, 3 years after the investigation began, a new report was submitted. It stated that the case should be treated as a murder. The investigators explained that despite their best efforts, they had been unable to uncover solid evidence to identify the perpetrator. 4 years after the incident, despite the work of local police, the crime branch, and now the CBI, the truth about what happened to Sister Abhaya remained unclear. The earlier report was dismissed, and a new CBI team was assigned to the case. This new team carried out another investigation, and by 1999, 3 years later, they concluded that Sister Abhaya's death appeared to be a murder. The key factor in this conclusion was the medical findings. This time, a group of 3 doctors, instead of just one, examined the body. They discovered several injuries that had not been mentioned in the first autopsy report. These injuries had been overlooked previously. Now, let's return to the day of the tragedy. When the incident occurred, many nuns were present at the convent and observed additional injuries on Sister Abhaya's body. Vivi Augustine, the officer I mentioned earlier, had even called a photographer to the scene. The photographer carefully examined Sister Abhaya's body and took pictures that revealed extra marks of injuries not mentioned in the earlier report or autopsy. When the body was retrieved, several nuns were nearby, and they too saw these injuries. They noted multiple marks that were not included in the original post-mortem report. After 7 years of investigation, it became clear that Sister Abhaya did not take her own life. The case appeared more like a murder, but who committed it? The answer might surprise you even more. The CBI acknowledged it was a murder, but they still didn't know who the killer was. Once again, the court refused to accept this report, and a new team was formed. In 2005, a fresh investigation was conducted, and once more, it was stated that the killers could not be identified. Once again, the court did not accept this report. Activists outside, part of the action committee, were now angry. Many discussions and conspiracy theories began to emerge. Some media reports suggested that the initial investigation had been mishandled. They claimed that Sister Abhaya was buried too quickly, her clothes were burned, and even her diary was destroyed. They believed that the autopsy had been incomplete and suspected that powerful people were trying to cover up the truth. Various theories spread rapidly throughout Kerala. How could such a chaotic scene be part of the case? Why did the evidence disappear? Then, a new team began investigating again, and in 2007, a shocking revelation came to light. By this time, the case had been under investigation for 15 years. There were many witnesses, but some had turned against the case, and others had even died. Many suspects had been questioned, but no solid proof was found against anyone. Then, out of nowhere, a witness stepped forward, offering a crucial clue to the case. But who was this witness? The witness turned out to be none other than a thief. An ordinary, unknown thief from 1992. Could his testimony really be trusted? Surprisingly, not only was his statement taken seriously, but it also changed the entire direction of the case. This man was Dakara Raju, who admitted to committing thefts around 1992. He would steal from different places, sell the stolen items, and use the money to feed himself and his family. On March 27th, Dakara Raju went to the Sant Pas convent with the intention of stealing. His goal was to climb to the roof of the convent, where there were copper rods and wires meant to protect against lightning, and take them to sell. He arrived in the dead of night to carry out his theft, but what he witnessed there was so unusual that it stayed in his mind for years. He noticed someone sneaking onto the campus in the dark, and the presence of that person seemed strange. He saw a priest there, Father Thomas Couture. This raised a question. What was a priest doing at the girls' hostel at such a late hour? Dakara Raju claimed he also saw Father Jose Putri Kyle and Sister Sephi. This is where things get even more eerie. As mentioned earlier, Raju had a simple method of working. He would steal items from various places, sell them to a scrap dealer, and use the money for his family's needs. But that night, as he witnessed the strange event, he felt helpless. How could he speak up about it when he was there to commit a crime? The next day, he read about Sister Abhaya's death, and then saw the police's statements about her case. That's when he began to feel that something was truly wrong. He had gone there to steal, and if he spoke about what he saw that night, he would have to admit to his own crime. 17. In a surprising turn, Dakara Raju went to the police and told them what he had seen that night. Imagine what happened next. When they heard his story, the police listened to his account and then arrested him, accusing him of the murder. They created a simple theory. Dakara Raju entered the convent that night to steal, and when he ran into a nun, she screamed. In panic, he killed her and threw her body into the well before escaping. Simple. Dakara Raju was held for 58 days, during which he allegedly faced different forms of torture. He claimed he was pressured to take the blame for the murder. He said he was offered bribes, money, a job, help for his children's schooling, and even a house if he confessed to the crime. His scrap dealer, Shamir, was also allegedly tortured and pushed to blame Raju for everything. However, both Dakara Raju and Shamir refused to back down. When Raju wouldn't give in to the lure of money, they threatened him with several false charges. But what made him stand firm against this corrupt system? It was his honesty. Throughout this dirty game, Dakara Raju was the one who stood strong in his truth. Raju was known for his simple approach to crime. He would steal from various locations and sell the stolen goods to a scrap dealer. One night, while he was on the premises of the convent with the intent to steal, he witnessed something that left a lasting impact on him. As he made his way through the darkness, he noticed someone sneaking around the area. This figure immediately seemed suspicious to him. It turned out to be Father Thomas Couture, which made Raju question why a priest would be at the convent so late at night. What he saw next made it even stranger. He also spotted Father Jose Purikal and Sister Sifi. This moment marked the beginning of an unsettling series of events for Raju. As always, he was there to steal, but the incident he witnessed didn't sit well with him. The next day, Raju saw the news about Sister Abhaya's tragic death, followed by police comments about the investigation. His gut told him that something wasn't right. Though he had gone to steal, he knew that if he spoke up about that night, it would mean confessing to his own crime. But in a surprising move, Raju did the unthinkable. He went to the police and told them everything he had seen. When the police heard his story, they initially seemed to believe him, but soon arrested him, accusing him of the murder. They quickly developed a simple theory. Raju had entered the convent that night to steal. During the theft, he came across a nun who screamed. In panic, Raju killed her and threw her body into the well, making his escape. The theory was basic, and there was no substantial evidence to support it. But Raju was detained for 58 days. He claimed that during this period, he was tortured and coerced into admitting to the crime. The authorities allegedly offered him bribes, money, a job, assistance for his children's education, and even housing in exchange for his confession. Raju's scrap dealer, Shamir, was also pressured and tortured to blame Raju for everything. But neither Raju nor Shamir backed down. Despite the threats and bribes, Raju held firm in his truth. His honesty and resolve became something even the court came to admire. The case took a dramatic turn as the CBI identified two major suspects, Father Thomas Couture and Father Jose Purikal. A neighbor who lived near the convent claimed that on the night of March 26th, he had seen Father Couture's scooter parked outside the convent. He had gone to a shop for tea, and when he returned around midnight, he noticed the scooter still there. At first, he didn't think much of it, but later, under pressure, he admitted to having seen it. This neighbor was one of many witnesses who had originally been supportive, but later turned against the case. When Raju reported this to the police, they already knew about the suspects. Why did they not follow up on Raju's account? Why didn't they investigate this angle more thoroughly? Was someone manipulating the case to fit a different narrative? Raju had been offered money to remain silent, but who had enough power to offer him such a deal? The big question was, if Raju's story was true, then what was Father Couture doing at the convent that night? Rumors soon spread that Father Couture had confided in a friend, claiming that he and Sister Sefi had a relationship like a married couple. This wasn't the first time such claims had surfaced. Some nuns inside the convent had spoken about it among themselves, and others outside had shared similar suspicions. In 2008, based on Raju's testimony, the CBI named Father Thomas Couture, Sister Sefi, and Father Jose Purical as the primary suspects in the murder of Sister Abhaya. Following this, the defense attorney for the accused tried to discredit Raju by highlighting his criminal past, bringing up at least 10 criminal cases against him. However, Raju did not deny his past. Instead, he stood firm, insisting that his previous crimes had no bearing on his truth. The defense's attempts to undermine him only strengthened his resolve. In court, the defense lawyer raised the issue of Raju's criminal record, citing around 10 criminal cases in which Raju had been implicated. While Raju openly acknowledged his past wrongdoings, this backfired on the defense's argument. Despite admitting to his earlier crimes, Raju remained resolute in his testimony, committed to seeking justice for Sister Abhaya's murder. His statement led to Father Thomas Couture, Sister Sefi, and Father Jose Purical being sent to Bengaluru for narcoanalysis tests. The investigators decided to conduct a narcoanalysis test. This is a method where drugs are administered to lower a person's conscious inhibitions, aiming to extract truthful answers. While such tests have limitations, they revealed new details. Dr. Malini was the one in charge of these tests, and the results were recorded onto 3 separate CDs. However, it was later discovered that these CDs containing the narco test results had been tampered with. Dr. Molini was called to explain the discrepancies, but by then, she had already been suspended, leaving the reports incomplete. Everyone present during the tests was interrogated, but all denied any tampering. To get to the truth, the CDs were sent to the Central Forensic Development and Imaging Technology, CFDIT, for further analysis. CFDIT examined the digital files and uncovered shocking information. The first CD, belonging to Father Thomas Couture, contained a full 32 minutes and 50 seconds of footage, but had been altered over 30 times. The second CD, with Father Jose's test, was 40 minutes and 55 seconds long and had been edited 19 times. Finally, the third CD, which recorded Sister Sefi's test, was 18 minutes and 42 seconds long and had been altered 23 times. After the discovery of these tampered files, the Kerala High Court instructed the CBI to present the original CDs within 10 days. However, just a few days later, the original recordings were shown on a local TV station in Kerala. How the broadcast happened and who aired it remains a mystery. But these unaltered recordings exposed the truth about Father Thomas Couture and Father Jose's involvement in the murder. According to the narco test results, on March 27, 1992, Sister Abhaya woke up at 4 a.m. It was a warm morning, so she went from her room to the fridge to get some water. While drinking, she heard noises from the kitchen. When she checked, she found Father Couture, Father Jose, and Sister Sefi in a compromising situation. Before she could flee, they attacked her with lethal intent. Sister Sefi grabbed an axe from the kitchen and struck Sister Abhaya on the head. The post-mortem report later confirmed head injuries. Afterward, they disposed of her body by dragging it to a well, hoping to cover up their crime. Once the original narco test recordings were broadcast, the CBI began questioning all 3 suspects. In 2009, they were granted bail, but shockingly, Father Jose was absolved of any involvement. Over the next decade, multiple hearings took place, and in 2020, the Kerala High Court sentenced Father Thomas Couture and Sister Sephi to life imprisonment based on the narco test results and Raju's testimony. Both were also fined 5 lakh rupees. After 28 years, thanks to the testimony of a thief, one of India's longest-running murder mysteries was finally resolved. Sister Abhaya's parents died in 2015 before their daughter attackers was brought to justice. "I just wish my parents could have been here to see it happen," said Thomas, Sister Abhaya's brother. "That's all they ever wanted." The story of Sister Abhaya is more than just a crime drama. It is a reminder of the importance of seeking justice, even when it takes years. It is also a testament to how perseverance, truth, and public support can overcome even the most formidable obstacles. What are your thoughts on this case? Share them in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to the channel to not miss more captivating stories.